Hello, friends. Continuing with the topic that we've been discussing for the last 3 episodes, which is all about product development. We talked of product strategy, we talked of what product management looks like. Today, I intend to take up this episode to discuss a very important part of product development, and which is that about product pricing. Product pricing is a very, very important part. I cannot emphasize this more for both product development and for selling both. As we discussed in the previous episodes, the product should be one that will serve the customer's need. Otherwise, it's no good. Why would a customer buy something if it doesn't solve any of his challenges or desires? Okay? At the same time, as we said, the product has to be profitable for the company in terms of revenue, in terms of profitability, and in terms of helping it to gain a status of a leader in the market. Now, for all of this to happen, the price needs to be right. Rather, I would say the price needs to be just right. You don't want to squander it away selling it cheap, nor do you want to make it so expensive that people don't buy your product. And therefore, this is a balance that one has to make and understand very well. It's a very critical part. So proper understanding and approach to pricing is very, very important. Also, I would go to the extent of saying that your price actually determines your audience also to a large extent. Because if your price is too high, then there is a niche audience that is going to be able to afford your product. And if it's too cheap, that niche crowd that we were just talking of is probably not even going to look at your product. Okay, so your price is going to determine your audience. And why, as I just said, is that the perception of the quality of the product, of the design of the product, and the sales service they will get after the product is all determined in the customer's mind based on the price that he's paying for it. And therefore, I insist, or I rather lay and make a statement saying that the price should not be an afterthought. You cannot determine the price after the product is made. You need to determine the price before you even start ideating and thinking of the product. Because that is one factor that is going to help you to know what kind of a product you can afford to make. That is the factor. The price is the factor that is going to help you to determine your potential audience. And if you set the price right, your target audience is going to be yours. It is something that you can stand and be sure that's to happen. I come from the jewelry industry. I've spent many, many years there. And I have often voiced my opinion, and I used to do it to a large extent, is that the norm in the industry, by and large, is that your selling price is a factor of cost and the profit you want to put on it. Now, very often, I have seen that the cost itself is erroneous. They don't factor certain things. There is a product development cost. There is a design cost. It can't just be gold and labor and filing charges and setting charges, which the people from the jewelry industry would understand. So that is not the way that your cost has to be determined. There are so many other factors that you need to consider. And one major thing I have seen when it comes to putting the cost is that invariably they do not put a value, a cost of the finance, especially if it is their own finance, nor do the owners factor in a cost for their time, if nothing else. So I have always propagated the idea, and I still firmly believe in it, that product pricing should be done by what perception you can create for the consumer. Okay, I can make a product at 100 rupees, but if it is such that somebody is going to be willing to pay 500 rupees, why would I want to sell it at 100 plus profit, which would normally be 20-30%? Does that make sense to you? Sure, your answer is no. And therefore, your pricing should be such that it gives enough to the customer for your product to be valuable. And if by chance your cost plus profit is not working out to be the price at which the customer will find value, go back to the drawing board. There is something wrong with the product and you need to revise it. Also, pricing depends on your reputation. The same product can be sold by two different people based on the reputation. If somebody has a reputation of always being completely ethical and honest, giving extremely fantastic after-sales service, he can surely claim a higher price, and people will willingly pay for it than a person who's selling the same product but is not doing any of these things. Okay? That is why we say brands create value. The value is not in the cost plus profit. The value is in that additional profit you can get out of the product only because of your reputation and what you bring to the mind of the consumer. So besides these two prime factors, cost and profit and reputation, there are other factors that are also important when you talk of costing. Basically, costing should be based on how much will a customer be willing to pay for your product or the service that you offer. And this is based on how many pain points you are relieving the customer from, or how many desires of the customer you are fulfilling. So what your customer will be willing to pay is what the price should be. Not too much higher than that, not lower than that. And price can never be lower than your cost plus basic profit that you're looking at. So to be profitable, you need to have a proper look at the product. And as I said, if it's not falling within that parameter, relook the product, relook the design, relook the manufacturing, whatever it is. You need to study the whole chain again. So when it comes to product pricing, there are certain things one should remember. You need to understand and compare the competition. If I'm developing something that is costing me 100 rupees, and somebody else is selling a similar product for, say, 250 rupees, I need not price myself at 100 plus profit, which may be 120, 130, whatever it is. I need to see if my features, my quality compares with the 250 rupees. Yes, as a market entry strategy, I might start pricing it at 240 to get some immediate traction. But, and this, again, I say from my years of experience in the gem and jewelry industry, you need to look at both the direct and the indirect competition. In our case, in the case of jewelry industry, the direct competition was the other manufacturers. And unfortunately, most manufacturers, the only way they knew how to enter into a company or into a prospective customer was by dropping the price. Doesn't work. And it has clearly shown that it does not. But what has really harmed the industry is that we have not been able to tackle the indirect competition that lies within our product category, so to say. Okay, which is things like electronics, mobile phones, which is things like holidays, tourism. So these are the things that have now taken over the imagination of the Gen Z, especially. And that is because we have not done anything to keep the Gen Z attracted to our product. So comparing with the indirect competition is very important and crucial because they can take away a substantial chunk of the customer's wallet, which should rightly have been your share. Okay, so as I said, fashion, travel, watches, there's so many things that come under this category. And we need to keep looking at them to see what we can do to keep beating them, or at least keeping pace with what they are doing, what they are changing. Another advice I would give people is that do a soft launch and test and validate your pricing proposal. Okay, so when you launch a product, do a soft launch within a certain portion of your target group, not even the whole target group, within a portion of your target group, and find out the reactions. Depending on the product and service, make pricing as simple as possible. Yeah, if you're giving a product where there are additional features which can be customized for the customer, for every feature you add a price and it keeps going up, which is fine. But the base price, keep it very simple. Okay. Yes, this customization is something where you will definitely earn more, and you can charge more than the normal charging practice you would put, because you are putting in an effort to customize it. So you will activate those features as and when the customer wants it, and he keeps paying a fee for it. Okay. But, and this is again coming from the gem and jewelry industry, if you are offering the same product, that means the same design in a different material, say silver or platinum instead of gold, that price is going to differ. But then that is not a variation in the price based on the features. That becomes a different SKU in the real sense. And therefore, the price is going to be different. You can't give silver at the price of gold. If you could do that, boy, please come and advise me how I can possibly achieve that. Okay. Now, the tricky part comes with a lot of startups that I consult with and advise. They are launching something very often that is not available in the market in the way they are presenting it today. That's a very important statement I make. Okay. So for such people, I always advise, and that advice has been successful without fail with every single startup that I'm consulting with. Test the pricing from the bottom up approach. So what I mean by this is that you have your cost service. Okay, you know how many man hours is going to go into something, you know, blah, blah, blah. You have some thumb rule figures set up based on your costs, electricity, air conditioning, this, that, salaries. And you say, okay, for my factory to work for 1 hour, it costs me X amount. So you start with that as the base and put in your profit. Pretty much what I advise not to do. Okay, so that is your bottom price. Now what I'm suggesting is pretty much like what in today's world, every airline and so many things, even the Indian Railways now does it, is what we call dynamic pricing. As more and more people buy, you need to be very alert and track the number of sales or subscriptions that you are receiving for your product or service. At your bottom price, if there are a lot of people buying it, that means they are easily finding value which is more than what they are paying. So keep increasing the price. For new customers, you cannot charge for the old ones. So keep increasing the price till you find that that buying pattern is tapering off. That is the point at which you will say, okay, this should be my market price. Now, if you have an extra good reputation and blah, 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 it all actually gets incorporated into it because it is you who is offering all of that. So continue this pattern till the sale starts falling. That means you've reached, you're peaked out. So then you need to stabilize yourself. And to stabilize yourself, it may not be a bad, without pronouncing it as such, offer certain discounts, not as a discount, because I personally believe discount means your product is not selling or it's not good. But figure out a way to bring that price down a notch. In fact, if there are a few people who send us as a saying to create and enhance your reputation, maybe even give them a refund saying that we have revised this price and therefore this is what we are doing. Okay, so continue with this. And this is your dynamic pricing method for a new product. Never ever price your product on what surveys tell you. Because somebody might say that, oh, I can pay 200 rupees for this. But if they don't buy it at 200 rupees, what good is that price indicator? What good is the result of the survey? So I believe that your price should be judged by the sales that you achieve, not by the results of any survey. Use the survey only as a guide, but it is not the final verdict. And even when you do a survey, I still recommend the bottom-up approach. Yes, your bottom might be the lower end of the survey result, but I still recommend. Why is pricing so important? Because your price sends a message about the product. So be sure to be very judicious when you set the price of your product. Price it based on what you believe the customers will pay for it, based on what your value your product delivers to the customer. I just said this 2-3 times already. What are the pain points it solves, or what are the desires it fulfills? And based on this, you need to find the nice sweet spot by testing the bottom-up approach as well as this of what your price should. Because to reach that sweet spot, there are 4 questions that you should be able to answer based on the testing that you have done with the sales, based on your soft launch. If your product is too expensive, what is going to happen is that the customer, they might find the product very, very attractive, but it is so expensive that they will not even consider buying it. This is not what you want. Okay? Or is it too cheap? In this situation also, there will be customers who will not buy it because they will not believe you. They will think that the quality and the service that they're going to get for this product is something that cannot ever be good. So you're professing something about the product which they will not believe in if the product is too cheap. The third is it expensive? Not too, is it expensive? At what price would the customer say, yeah, this seems to be good. The price is right. The value, what it is promising to deliver is good. Let me give it some thought. That thought means that that person has found value, but he is not yet convinced of the value. Okay. So, but he's not running away. That is an important fact. And then you need to ask, is it cheap? That means that that price customer will just buy it without too much thought to it. Because the basic value he expects, even if he discounts it by 10, 15, 20%, he still thinks it's worth it. That means your product is cheap. So what is the sweet spot? That's the big question. So the sweet spot for an acceptable price for the product would ideally be the point where the too expensive and the too cheap intersect. So the point at which they intersect should ideally be your sweet spot. But you cannot define one number when you start pricing. You need to figure out something. So what would be the range for the sweet spot? And I believe that the range for the sweet spot should be the point of intersection of the expensive versus the too cheap and the too expensive versus the cheap. Grasp these, and the 2 points where these two intersect, your sweet spot should fall within that. And I think this is the best thing that you can do. So don't go by surveys. I'm repeating, do a soft launch, test people should buy, then that the price means something. Okay. You need to be very sure and careful not to underprice your product, because customers will lose confidence in it. And never try to price yourself by undercutting the competition. You will both go to the floor, you will reach the floor, rock bottom pricing. You don't gain anything. Even the customer doesn't gain anything in reality, because the customer will face a product quality challenge. You are going to change and cut corners so that you can still afford it at that price, or you are going to cheat, which I have seen happening. Okay, so you need to be careful about that. You need to put a number on the minimum margin you want, and our price should never be below that, which we have already discussed. And finally, remember that demography and geography is very important. You cannot go and sell something which brings no value, or where people don't have the capability to buy something. So you need to base it or target your market based on the audience that can afford, need, and be able to use your product. These are some of my thoughts on the pricing, and I hope it has been helpful. Anybody has comments, please get back to me. I've received a few comments, well, more than a few comments over the weekend, asking me to do a couple of episodes on how to develop a product strategy. I have started thinking about it, but doing it in a couple of episodes seems to be a bit challenging. And a few of them who have asked for this, people I know who will use it well and can afford to, I've asked them if they'd be willing to pay me to do this. Waiting for a reply. But I am working on it. I will definitely try and do something. So thank you very much. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next episode.